It has been 8 days since the lack of an Armory update, and people are freaking out. So if you're one of those people, or you've already bought s&box skins, it's probably time for a reality check. So let's go shopping. But before that, if you're buying Armory passes and redeeming your stars right now, you're making a mistake. Right? If you're scared of the Armory update not coming and thus supply growing, then redeeming stars is doing the exact thing you don't want to happen. On top of that, the ROI just simply isn't great for redeeming certain collections right now. So you're putting yourself in a losing position because you're probably not going to make the money back on the Armory pass you just purchased. You could keep buying passes, but make sure you're saving your stars. These should be going towards the anticipated new collections that will eventually come out, or you could put them into the ones that are realistically going to stay long term. The pricing on the 2025 community stickers, the pricing on the newer charm collections that were added in October, these prices have stayed relatively stagnant because no one expected these to leave in the first place. So if you do have an itch to redeem something, maybe go there. But you're better off just using cash, meaning currency, if you want anything in the collections that have overstayed their welcome. But there are plays that are better than others, so let's see where we should go. If you want to see my thought process and what I purchase exactly, I'm going to do like a $500 spend tonight on Twitch. So if you'd like to tune in, tune in. Now, where we're going to start first are the ones in which the math does the talking. My opinion doesn't really matter. We're just looking at underpriced things considering the landscape of the collection they're in and the market. The main guiding factor here is the trade-up contract, because you take 10 of them, you get one item above it. And if the prices are not in line with one another, one of them has to go up. And that math is going to drive pretty much what we're talking about in this section specifically. And the first one of which is going to be the Glock Axia, specifically in field tested. But you could probably also do well worn here. Battle Scarred I would probably just stay away from. However, there is a case in which Battle Scarred is viable here as well. However, they are pretty similar in price, so just go with the best float one, and that's going to be field tested. The field tested Glock Axia, it sits at around $42 right now on most marketplaces, and that is down around $7, or just around 15% in the last 2 to 3 weeks. Now, if you take 10 Glock Axias, you guaranteed get an M4 Fade. An M4 Fade right now goes for around $38. So if you're trading up 10 $40 Glocks, you pay $400 for a $380 gun. That's already a pretty significantly small margin, and if the M4 Fade goes up, let's say to $420, well then your Glock Axia is probably going to rise to around $44, $45, making your price gain pretty much guaranteed. But that's not driving the price entirely. Right, when you trade up to an M4 Fade, you can control the float, but what you cannot control is the fade percentage. So if you trade up 10 for $40 each, you spend $400 for a $380 fade. If the fade you get is 80%, shucks, you sell for market price or you hold out. But if you trade up, you get lucky and you get a 99% fade, well then you spent $400 for a $500 skin, immediate profit regardless of how long you wait. But if leaving it up to chance is not something you want to do, you can just hold out and play the mathematics game. But you can increase your ROI in a much shorter time span if you do get a little bit lucky. Now, the Glock Axia in field tested does have good fundamentals, which should cause it to rise over time, but it's not going to be necessarily the target of any manipulation. The factory new one would though. But the factory new one is around $200. Maybe you don't have that much to spend, or you don't want to add too much at this time right now, and that's completely fine. You can, however, buy some of the factory new fillers for the Glock Axia and factory new. 5.7 heat treated does receive a decent amount of demand due to its usage as a play skin and its possibility for gems. Combine that with a 0-1 float cap, factory new is very rare for the 5.7, therefore it is a higher price than what you would expect from trading up 10 of them. So you have to look at the MP9 and the UMP from the Sport and Field collection instead. Now these are good plays right now as well because they're both down around 10% as well on the week. Now under that float threshold, they sit at around roughly the same proportion, 1/10 of the Glock Axia in factory new. And if the Glock Axia does get discontinued, and if the Glock Axia does get pumped by Chinese manipulation groups, then you're looking at free exposure at a cheaper price by buying the MP9 or UMP, because they will have to increase in price to match the Glock Axia's new underlying price. This is not a guess, they've specifically named the Glock Axia as one of their targets upon removal. So your risk to reward ratio is pretty high here because it cannot really go down too much more than what it is right now. And if you get in right now, you're looking at around a 10% discount from where it was just 7 days ago. And while we're on the math of trade ups and while we're on the Sport and Field collection, I think it is useful to talk about the MP5 Savannah Halftone, which is a light blue within the Sport and Field collection. Now this one has not seen a price drop like the Glock or the MP9 or UMP, but it does pose a very significant upside right now in the market currently. If you've been paying attention over the last week or so, a lot of light blues within the game have been being pumped because these are cheaper entryways to trade up to the dead hand skins without having to purchase them from the terminal. Now, while you might think a lot of the light blues have already been taken advantage of in that way, the Savannah Halftone is very different because it carries a very odd float cap. That float cap is 0.25 to 0.75, meaning that if you purchase an MP5 and it is under 0.285 field tested, that will trade up to a factory new equivalent skin. So you have this downward sell pressure because people are scared of the armory right now, but the value of this light blue should be at least staying steady or going up, meaning that your upside is much higher than your downside already, considering the price action has probably already hit its maximum. The panic is at its high right now. Since we don't know the date of the removal, but if it does get removed anytime soon, you just have complete upside without even having to do the trade up, without even having to think about what the MP5 trades up to. Of course, this one's going to be a little bit harder to come by, but if you just place some buy orders and be patient, they're around 30 cents each. I would not go hunting for them per se, but leave some buy orders and just wait, be patient with these ones. They probably will enjoy a pretty decent price gain over, the next few months. Now that's the trade up math where the numbers kind of speak for them themselves. Here, we're not going to look at the trade ups themselves. We're just going to be looking at one specific item in a vacuum. And this is where prices just are lower than where they should be right now, meaning that they pose a good buying opportunity for you if you have the funds to do so. Now, if you want to pick some of these things up and you're shopping for some of these specific skins, try out skins.com, today's sponsor. Skins.com is the first marketplace for Westerners on Chinese CS2 skins. Purchase from an extensive list of items or insta-sell your skins and withdraw it from a variety of methods, including bank transfer or crypto. For an insta-sell website, these are truly some of the best rates I've ever seen, and they are soon launching a peer-to-peer trading system to compete with some of the biggest players within the market. So why not get started now and get used to the website? Try out skins.com. You know it, you love it, the Tech 9 whiteout. This one is just cheap right now. It's down around 7% in the last week or so and down more than 10% over the last month. Now, no amount of panic is going to make the Tech 9 whiteout any more common than it's going to be ever, right? I've harped on this point plenty of times. The Train 2025 collection is fundamentally perfect, probably the best collection in the entire game in terms of just how easily skins can be manipulated within it and just how rare skins within it are going to be. That's why I wasn't even banking on the armory removal for the appreciation of most of the prices within this collection, because it's all so great. I was probably going to hold long term anyway, and I wasn't going to sell them if they weren't removed in the next or previous armory rotation that was supposed to happen last week. They sit around $350 on most marketplaces. If you can get in for $330 or less, it's an insta buy. I don't give a fuck what the float is. Factory new, $330, easy purchase. Now that is just a good purchase in and of itself. Like something with the M4 Fade, I would probably buy the fillers. The Tech 9 whiteout, I'd buy the Tech 9. But if you do want to buy the fillers, you absolutely can, because when the Tech 9 goes down, so do all of the fillers. The Glock and UMP are 0 to 1s that trade up to the Tech 9 whiteout. However, the Glock is more expensive because it's a Glock. People use the Glock more than they use the UMP. So if you're looking for fillers under 0.0135 for the UMP, under 0.007 for the FAMAS, under 0.008 for the XM. Because the XM and because the FAMAS do not carry a 0 to 1 float cap, they tend to be a little bit cheaper on marketplaces, so if you don't want to spend as much, look for those two guns specifically. As for the other purples within Train 2025, I probably wouldn't go for them here. Because people are going to try out that Tech 9 trade up, there's going to be a decent amount of purples in this collection relative to other collections. But if you do want to look and at least test the market, see what the prices are at right now, the Mac 10 is going to be better than the Zeus. Because it's not 0 to 1, you need a specific float cap, and that float is under 0.049. If you can find one of those for under $25, you're looking at a very good price. Under 30, still probably a purchase. Now the pinks and reds, I won't go over this too much because we've been over it a billion times at this point. M4 Hellish, MP9 Latte Rush, AWP Long Dog. All 0 to 1, meaning that if you redeem the collection and you get the MP9 or M4 or AWP, you have a 3% chance after getting it to get it in factory new. Markedly lower than pretty much any other float cap in the game. 0 to 1 is the hardest float cap in which to receive a factory new output. That goes for unboxing or for trade-ups. This also removes the trade-up gaming that you can kind of do by taking edge case floats and trading up to other ones by having a higher float cap in your input, lower float cap in your output. You can't do that because 0 to 1 is the largest, and they're both 0 to 1, the pinks and the reds. Now, if you're looking for pure trade-up value, the MP9 is cheaper than the M4, and they both provide the same value in terms of trading up. Therefore, the MP9 is going to be the better play. The M4 does have demand, though, more so in the terms of it being a play skin. Combine that with the M4A4, getting a decent buff with the ammo update. The M4 will probably be the better play for play skin wise, the MP9 for trade ups, although I expect probably both of them to rise relatively in proportion with one another. Pick whichever one you think has more room to run. I'd probably go with the M4 myself because the MP9 just got a decent bit of a nerf, and no one really likes the AWP long dog. Even though it will be rare, it will be relatively less demanded, sort of like a CMYK kind of situation, but a little bit more common than the CMYK. Long dog, same story. If you do want to buy a high tier weapon, you get this one, but you get it in factory new. Factory new is extremely rare for the long dog. Then we'll look at the charms. Some charms definitely have a pretty much guarantee of being removed in the next rotation, whenever the fuck that happens. The first one I'm looking at is the titanium AWP. Now I look at this one because some of them didn't move too much in the markets, but this one is down 11% in the last week. It sits at around $9 right now on Steam currently, and of course lower on different marketplaces. It has a wide array of colors, and I just like this collection in general because they are the shapes of guns, and we haven't heard anything about Valve adding more of these, so if these get removed, these will be the only ones in which serve this specific purpose, right? We'll just have a bunch of random shapes and shit. The gun ones do pose a purpose, so I think that these ones have the most room to run in terms of charm collections once they're discontinued. So at $9, that's a pretty reasonable bet. In the same vein, the Little Squirt, which is like a water gun type looking M4 deal from the same collection. It's also a pink, but it sits at around $4. So it definitely has a lower demand, and you could definitely see that reflected in how many times you see it in game on a gun or something. But $4 for a pink, I mean, this is a pretty safe play. There's not going to be too many of these in circulation. If something comes out in which this charm matches it very well, I think you have a pretty easy play. Combine that with discontinuation and the current price. Pretty low risk, high reward type of situation you got here. Continuing on that point, the missing link charms. Now we can pretty much expect these to go, right? We know that Valve has a new charm collection coming in the Call to Armsry. So we can expect probably the two oldest ones, Missing Link and Small Arms, to be removed in the next rotation. Now, prices in general of this collection have been trending upwards because people are pretty much expecting these ones to go. Also, what could be driving that price trending upwards is the fact that redemptions are just going down, therefore listings are not being listed as much. So while the Hot Worst is a little bit cheaper, the Hot Howl is probably going to be the better play from the reds of this collection, right? The name alone on the charm is going to carry this price for sure, and it will be popular once it gets removed. It's basically the Howl charm. It was around $75 last week. It's now around $65, so it poses a pretty good buying opportunity right now. But if you don't want to spend that much money on a charm, you can look at the Diamond Dog. The Diamond Dog has seen a relatively large increase compared to everything we've looked at today, with around 20% price dip over the last 7 days or so. Now that may sound like a bad thing, but it's probably a good thing. Now the price was inflated right before the anticipated armor rotation, and it dipped quite a bit, but that price right before the anticipated rotation, that reflects that I think people think this one's going to be expensive once it gets discontinued, right? There's confidence in the market that this one bounces upon its removal. So I think that this one will be pretty good, and right now, since it's down 20%, you have yourself a good buying opportunity. Then we have the Overpass collection. Now the Overpass collection is very interesting because while you'll see price movement upwards if it does get removed, it also has souvenir packages, which always hurts the long-term prospects of the play because you always have a way in which to get the skins, but they can't trade up, so that's something to take into account as well. Now the Krakow is a 0-1 pink skin, meaning that it's going to be pretty rare in its own right, and I think people like this skin, so I think it will be pretty decent long-term just on its own volition. Right, the Be the Monster sits at around $1,100, and if you do want to trade up to it, you can use a Krakow in minimal wear under 0.0875. So if you could find one of those for under $110, you have yourself pretty much free upside in terms of the AWP Krakow's price. Now, the Zeus, while it's not 0-1, it's 0-0.8, and the AK Be the Monster is also 0-0.8, meaning that any factory new Zeus is going to trade up to any factory new Be the Monster. And the Zeus itself has seen a pretty decent price dip over the last 7 days, from around $250 on Steam to around $200, which is probably the biggest decrease we've seen of the day. So I do think the AK Be the Monster will be a pretty popular gun and will demand quite a decent amount of price if it is discontinued. So I think that the Zeus right here in Factory New is probably a pretty decent purchase right now. But if you want to skip all that bullshit, you can buy the AK Be the Monster directly. I don't think that is a horrible investment by any stretch of the imagination. It is a very nice looking skin. It's very popular. Matches some of the new gloves that are out, so I don't think this is a bad play in any means. It was around $1,300 a couple of weeks ago, and now it's at around $1,050, around to $1,100. Now, lastly, these are some plays that are probably not going to be removed, right? These are from the newer collections that were added just around 6 months ago in October of 2025. But for some reason, they have dipped over the last week, which doesn't really make any sense, considering that we weren't expecting these to leave anyway. Which means that that's pure panic driving that price movement downwards, and we can expect it to go back up to its previous price levels sooner rather than later. One that I found was the Eye of Ball from the Dr. Boom community charms. This one has went from around $6.50 to $5.60 over the same week's time span we've been looking at for every other skin. That's around a 20% loss on a charm that we weren't even expecting to leave anyway. So this poses a pretty good buying opportunity. Again, low exposure. You don't want to hold too many of these because we can expect it to stay for at least another 6 months. But what does make this specific collection interesting is that there's a lot more pinks and a lot more reds than the previous charm collections, meaning that once you get a pink or once you get a red, you then have to spread yourself out even more probability-wise amongst the many pinks and many reds that reside within the collection. Therefore, I think you'll see a lot less of specific reds and specific pinks within the collection, and I think that's reflected in the price points of some of them, like the Butane Buddy, which hasn't really went down under $150 since it's being released in October. Another one that's gone down in the last week from the Sticker Collection 2025 community is the Chrome Dome Hollow. This one has a very unique effect when it's applied, and I think it'll shine on guns like the M4 Fade, M4 Printstream, the entire Printstream series. And it's dropped around 10% over the last week. Again, we weren't expecting these to be removed, so I would not expect this price movement in this collection, but alas, it has happened. This is a long-term sticker. I think it'll be perennially popular with many different loadouts and many different skins. So this is just pure contagious panic from the panic surrounding the Armory as a general broad market. All right, when people are running to s&box to make money, that's my signal to go double down in the CS market because they're selling their shit for cheap so they can go buy banana shoes. It's fine with me. If you like the game, go for it. Natural selection. I ate panic for lunch. It's my life force. Peace.